Welcome back to The Power of Not Knowing. I'm Sterling. Hi. I'm still getting used to all of this. So, this is fun. This is so fun. Okay, so by the title of this podcast episode, you definitely, oh my gosh, there's a gnat. There's a gnat flying around, and I don't know if you can see it, but it bothers me every once in a while. I've been trying to freaking catch it. I don't know how it got in here. Anyway, by the title of this podcast episode, you may know that I decided to quit my job. And it's been a long time coming, and I wanted to talk about it. I kind of wanted to debrief the whole situation and discuss how I'm feeling and the process of it all, which is not very much of a process, quitting your job. I don't know. Wanted to discuss all about it because maybe someone's going through how I was feeling. And okay. So I've been trying to start this thing for a while now. It's like I get so nervous for some reason. But anyway, let's get into it. I have my little notebook here with an outline of everything that I want to discuss. And yeah, let's go. So, I couldn't really make another episode on here because I felt like I wasn't being authentic and I felt like I wasn't living what I'm trying to get across on this podcast, which is living authentically and trying to do things that are uncomfortable and fearful because there's so much power in it. And I didn't feel I was being authentic or could be authentic because I was literally so unhappy at my job that it was making me crazy. And I felt like I was lying to everybody, So I'm like, why would I start this podcast but not practice what I'm preaching? So yeah, I have been at this, it's literally a coffee shop job, whatever. But yeah, I've been working at this coffee shop job in Austin for almost 3 years now. And yeah, it's just been a long time coming. I was so exhausted. I was just so agitated and aggravated and frustrated and exhausted from this place. It was just draining all of my energy that I don't know. I just looked back at literally a couple of years of journaling, and I have been so unhappy for so long, and I was just ignoring it. I've had many conversations with people about not being happy there, but I was also so afraid because I'm like, oh, this job pays well. I don't have a college degree. I'm not too sure what I want exactly. So instead of trying to do something about it, I just continued to complain or journal or just cry and be frustrated by myself over and over. It was like this endless toxic cycle. Yeah, that's the best way I can describe this. My work, like this past couple of years, was this endless toxic relationship where I felt like I was living the same day over and over and over and over again. That like I woke up feeling exhausted and I dreaded having to go to this place. And it was just always on my mind that I have so much potential and I could be doing so much better. But because I never chose to sit there and feel that feeling and understand what I was going through, I never chose to move forward. It was just like an endless loop. I would feel this really like strongly like, oh, I know I shouldn't be doing this. I should just quit. It's making me so unhappy. And then I would numb myself with something or distract myself. And I would just choose to ignore it or do something to hide it until I was like, okay, this isn't that bad. Like, this is fine, until it wasn't. And it's just been going on for so long. And I'm being honest, like, I wasn't just here for a few months. Like, I felt this literally after a few months of working there, and I stayed at this job for almost 3 years. And yeah, so I know what it takes to be uncomfortable, and I know that we all need, like, once you get this like urge or this like unsettling feeling in your stomach, and if you're constantly feeling it, it's kind of like you got to take the leap of faith. Like, you have to trust yourself, and you have to trust it, you know, like the universe is trying to tell you something. Okay, so yeah, I just want to explain a little bit about what I was going through, like, during it. Maybe it can help people relate. Like, I feel like getting more in depth of what I was feeling will help a lot. I just remember crying to my boyfriend all of the time, just like super depressed and sad, where I just like lost any sense of self. I didn't feel passionate. I didn't feel like I was being purposeful. I felt so unconfident. I would just wake up, go to work, didn't care what I looked like. I would just spend so much time dreading it, and then I would have my days off and I would feel so exhausted that it's just like recovering from the job. And I don't know, like, I'm curious if many people feel this way. Like, I'm sure people do, but it's just this weird exhaustion that you can't really describe unless you're feeling it. And I remember sitting there crying all the time, literally all the time. I would be so submerged with this feeling of uncertainty and this feeling of like, gosh, this isn't helping you grow. This is keeping you stagnant and comfortable. But I just continued to ignore it. I'm like, oh, it's fine. Like, you don't have to have it figured out. Like, this isn't going to last forever. But I never was doing anything about it to actually like get out of the situation. So there were nights where I would literally cry myself to sleep. I would cry and like try to explain how I was feeling to my boyfriend. Like, he was here so supportive, because I would feel so anxious about having to go into work all the time. And it was mainly just anxiety about knowing I wasn't doing something that was fulfilling, and knowing that there was this life that other people were living where they seemed so happy and they seemed so successful. And it's just kind of this like survival mode that I got stuck in. It was very like, oh, if you don't continue to work here, or just because it's all I knew, it was like, you can't afford to quit this job and try to go to a different one because you don't know anything, or it's not gonna pay any better, or I don't know. It just kind of got into this weird phase where it was just like telling me like, oh, like, this is your only option type thing. I have to burp. Hold on. Okay, yeah. So I remember my boyfriend specifically telling me, he was like, he's very much a person who's like, as soon as he feels that he doesn't like something or something needs to change, he's very like adamant about like, oh, like the saying about you can't keep doing the same thing and expecting a different result. Like, that's crazy. I don't know the saying exactly, but he was just like, oh, like, what? He was very supportive and caring, but at the same time, he was very much pushing me like, what are you expecting type thing. Like, you're doing the same thing. You're complaining about it. It's not making you happy. You're very miserable. Like, like, it's kind of obvious type thing. But I would always ignore it. And I remember this past time I was explaining to him, like a few months ago, I was just like, I was like, I really want to try to be creative and do all this stuff that makes me feel fulfilled. Like, I want to start a podcast. I want to use social media to represent things that I believe in. And he's like, yeah, like, he pushed me to actually do it because I was so embarrassed and so scared of like what people would think. And I was just crying, and I'm just like, I'm so miserable. This place makes me so exhausted. I'm trying to think of what he said. That's so funny. I had this thought clear, but oh my gosh, something's in my contact. Ouch. It feels better, but that made me like cry. Okay, anyway. Yeah, so I look like I was crying. Yeah, so I was just telling him how I'm like, I get stuck in the survival mode of like, I've only ever been there to depend on myself. It's always been the case. Like, of course I have family who loves me, but I've just always been like, it's like I learned it from my mom or something. Like, she worked so hard, but she was always working and always like, she couldn't stop or she couldn't rest. And so it's like I was like, oh, I just have to keep going. There's no time to really feel how I was feeling. Like, it's okay. Like, I'm just going to choose to ignore it because I literally have bills to pay. I have, like, my responsibilities don't just go away because I want to quit my job. Like that's, like, I don't know. It was just very, like, I was stuck in this survival mode. And I don't know if many people have felt it, but it's very, I don't know how to explain it. It's like you're trapped. You feel trapped. You feel like, oh, I don't have anyone. Like, I depend on myself, like, I'm all I got. I have to, everything that I've worked for is because I chose to do it and I worked hard for it. And I didn't want to like interfere with it. And I was just telling him that, and I was just like, I never really mentioned this to him before. Like, I was opening up so much because I just felt so frustrated and sad. And he's like, Sterling, you have so many people who support you. Like, you're not alone. If anything, he's like, it's hard seeing you be so miserable. It's hard seeing you cry. Like, he was always there for me to like hold me, like listen to me crying. Of course, there's times where he was like, bro, again. But yeah, this past time, he was just like, are you, like, I don't want to see you miserable anymore. You have to, like, you're gonna be okay. You are gonna be okay. I'm here for you. You are not alone. If this means you're gonna be miserable, I don't think it's worth it. Like, he was just, I don't know, it was just this reassurance that it really helped a lot, because I'm not used to people at least expressing it to me. Like, I know I have my mom and my family here, like, just in general, like, I know I'm gonna be okay, but like, the reality is, in times of like stress and stuff, I don't remember that. I'm just like, no, like, I can't not have income, blah 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 blah. So he like mentioned that, and he was saying like, it's okay. Like, if I think the best decision is to quit this job if it's taking so much from you. And so I decided, we set a date. He was like, okay, like, how do you want to go about this? Like, let's talk it out. And he's like, okay, on this date, I think you should, or of course it's my decision. He was leaving it up to me, but he was like, I support you putting your 2 weeks in. Like, I support you quitting your job, and it's okay that you don't have it figured out. Like, at this point, I was just, like, I'm like, oh yeah, I agree, blah, blah, blah. We talk it out. And then, of course, there I go again, where I'm just like, a few days later, where I'm like, okay, well, let me just push it back a bit, because let me just plan to save a bit more, and I need to figure out so I can have a set of income, you know, like obviously you want to have like a backup plan. You can't just fucking, I mean, yeah, whatever. So I just kept pushing it off, and I was like, okay, I'm going to go on this trip. I went to Thailand for a couple of weeks, and I took 3 weeks off of work. And I was like, I want to set an intention on this trip. Like, I'm going by myself. I went by myself, but with people. Like, Eric didn't come with me. So I like was like, I'm going to use this time to really try to grow and get some insight of what I'm feeling. And, you know, so I go on this trip, and it's amazing. Like, of course, the time away from work is always fine, you know, on a vacation, but it puts so much into perspective. It was like there was so many people there who had so little, but they were literally the happiest people I've ever met. Like, I don't know, it just like made me think. I'm like, being surrounded and then being with people who pushed me to do so many hard things, because we were training Muay Thai there. So it was like a constant, like, okay, yeah, like we're going to train. Like we're here to train 2 hours in the morning, 2 hours in the evening. Like I was just super like, oh my, like it lit a fire under me. Like I was like, it was like, I don't know how to explain it. Like at the job for the past couple of years, I just felt so, I guess I don't know. There were a few times where I was really sad, and I would look at myself in the mirror, and I'm just like, there's no one behind my eyes. And it made me really sad. I would journal about it. I'm just like, I genuinely don't see a happy person. If anything, I don't see anybody. I'm just like, I felt like my soul was just like taken from me, if that makes sense. Like I felt, it's just this weird, I don't know how to describe it. I don't know if anyone else has felt this way, but like I felt like a stranger to myself. I got to the point where I'm like, it was so hard for me to have conversations with people, and I love connecting with people. Like I'm the type of person who's like, I want to talk about some real stuff. Like I want to know, like I've just always been that person. I've always been the person who's like deep, and like I want to learn about people because I'm like, it's interesting. Like I don't want to have surface level conversations. But by not growing for so long and being so unhappy, I just felt like I didn't feel like myself. I felt like a complete stranger. So it was hard. It was hard to like look at myself, and it was hard to be proud of myself, and it was hard to have conversations. And I would get anxiety going to social gatherings because I'm like, these people they're not afraid to look me in the eyes and have fucking make eye contact with me. Like I was terrified of that. I got to the point where I'm like, I'm so uncomfortable in my own skin that I'm terrified to make eye contact, and I'm terrified for anyone to ask me a deep question. Like, please don't ask me how I'm, like, you know, like if you go past if you go past the script, I'm freaking out. Like, and I'm not used to being that person, so I'm just like when I would talk to them, I couldn't get myself to go past surface level conversations, and that was like eating at me so much because that's not me. And when people would ask me about myself, I would shut down. I would be literally try to change the topic as ASAP. Like I was like, oh, you asked me a deep question. Like, let me try my best to answer this really quick and ask you a question. Like, please, like I felt like this spotlight was put on me just because of how uncomfortable in myself I was, and how sad I was, and how the main thing is how much of a stranger I felt like I was. So I went on this trip, and it opened my eyes because I was like surrounded by people who were pushing me, and surrounded by people who were trying to push themselves and grow. Like I was like forced into this situation of growth, and it was so good. It was so good, which is obvious, you know, like these things are obvious. It's not like I'm telling you something fucking like, oh, this is news. Did you know this? Like everyone knows this. Anyways, so it put into perspective how much of a place that I was working at was lacking growth. Like, the people were so opposite. Like, I have two opposite sides of the spectrum. I have people at my gym who I'm traveling across the country with. First of all, that was the first time out of the country. That was scary for me. I went by myself. Like, traveling across the country with, who I train Muay Thai with, which Muay Thai is the most uncomfortable, like, scary thing ever for people who are just, like, it's just kind of, it's constant growth. You constantly are getting your ego tested. Martial arts, all martial arts, it's, which I could preach about this, but like, it's constantly getting your ego tested. You're constantly getting put in an uncomfortable position where you don't know how to do something and you have to learn. Like, it's just like this constant, like, you're not perfect unless like, you can never be perfect. You're constantly learning and you're constantly being pushed by people. And there are times where you feel like you suck. And it's like, that was so horrible. Like, okay, that, like, it stings. It stings to not know things, like, which is good for you. So, yeah, so I have two sides of the spectrum of people. I have these people who are pushing me and who, of course, they're older, but, like, who know themselves and who have grown so much. And I get to have these conversations with them, especially for, like being constantly stuck there with them. It was, like, so good for me. But then I have this other side of my life where I'm at a job who no one has hard conversations. No one has, it doesn't seem like anyone has goals. No one's having, everyone, like, I don't know. Eventually I got to the point where I was just numb when I went into work. Like, I'm just like, okay, let me just shut down, like, disassociate. And I was just noticing a lot. I'm like, oh, these people, I don't know what they would do if they didn't complain. Like, of course, some of these people are like my friends and I love them so dearly. But at the same time, I'm just like, oh, these people are complete opposite. Like, they aren't doing something to better themselves. They're staying comfortable. And I'm not saying it as a mean thing, because I literally was doing the same thing for years. Like, these people aren't pushing themselves. Like, the complaining, it's like, what would they do if they didn't complain? Which, obviously, that was me. It's like they lived for it. They lived for this cycle, this toxic cycle. Because it took away from them really sitting with this uncomfortable feeling of, I don't know, like, insecurity and lack of confidence. And I don't know. I mean, maybe these people don't feel this. At one point, multiple times, I was like, am I the only one? Like, am I the only one noticing y'all sitting here complaining at 6 a.m? Like, you just woke up. And am I the only one noticing that you're being so ugly and mean to people? Like you can clearly see you're not happy. Am I crazy? Am I the crazy one who's noticing this? You know what I'm saying? And I mean, I'm crazy for fucking staying. So I'm not saying that I'm like, oh, I know better. I don't know, whatever. So I was doing the same thing. But eventually I got to the point where I was just only noticing it. And I'm just like, ugh. Like, I feel like that's what was exhausting, is like being surrounded by people. And also being who were super like negative and like lacking growth, but they didn't want it, And then also being in a workspace where it was so overstimulating where everything was constantly going on. Like, you couldn't take a second for yourself. Like, that's not, like, whatever. So it's like, I don't know, just thinking about being in a space where it's overstimulating, it drains you so much. And I was just going to this place first thing in the morning. It's like you can't fill up your own, what is the filling cup phrase? oh no, I was going to fill up other people's cups literally because I was making coffee, but I was filling up other people's cups before filling up my own. So I was left with nothing. Like I would wake up and just go straight into giving my energy and having this workspace take it, and I was left with what was left for me. When I would come home, I would literally be exhausted. I would nap and sit on my phone until I had to go train. I would continue to train, but then I would come home, eat. Like it was like an endless cycle. Like I was never doing anything for me, and I couldn't fill up my own cup. So it was exhausting. So yeah, I go on this trip, and yeah, I felt like my soul was rejuvenated. I don't even know how to explain it. Of course, vacation is great. And of course, you don't have to love your job. Actually, I want to love my job. I want to love what I do. And that's another topic. I don't know. Like, I just don't think that you have to work your life away for the sake of being unhappy. Like, that literally frustrates me so much. Like, the fact that we're fed this thing where you just like, people are asking you at a young age, like, what do you want to do when you grow up? Like, what career do you want? Like, we're just forced into the work system and forced to like have this plan of like, they want you to not, I don't know. This is a touchy subject. I don't know. Some people have passions to do things that are great, like become doctors and stuff, but like, that's just not me. But also like other people, I'm just like, you're forced to look at life like you have to work, go home, like you go to work, make money to pay your bills. Like, it's just this loop. It's a rat race. Like, felt like I was stuck in this rat race. And I don't believe in that at all. I believe you should, like, you have one life, and it's just like, you should be so grateful for it. And you should do something that makes you freaking happy, not for the sake of money. Of course money comes into it, and of course people don't want to we want to be financially free. Like, that's a goal of mine. But like, at the same time, it's like, I don't want to be at a job I hate for the sake of making money for other people who don't give a crap about me. Like, that doesn't sit right with me. It may sit right with you and you may enjoy it, but it literally is one of my biggest fears. Scary. So yeah, I was going back through my journal, and I have like notes in my phone and stuff, and I found this journal entry from January of 2023. And this is just, I remember I would always listen to podcasts when I would open in the morning at this coffee shop, and it just got to the point where I was obsessed with all this like motivational stuff where I'm like, yeah. But I loved hearing it and I loved reading it, but I wouldn't I wouldn't necessarily do anything about it. It's like, that's a toxic cycle too. Like, you just keep putting more information in your head, but if you don't do anything, it's useless. You know what I'm saying? Like, you might as well just listen to nonsense. I don't know. Whatever. So there is this, what is her name? Mel Robbins. I think Mel Robbins podcast. And this quote is, I wrote it down because I was like, oh, this is interesting. And she was like, do you know how much energy it takes walking into a job you can't stand? Like, and I was like, okay, well, that makes me feel better because that's exactly how I felt. You know what I'm saying? I don't know why I read that. I kind of explained that already. But yeah, it made me feel seen. And I'm like, oh, that's not normal. Okay. So yeah, it was hard I couldn't really explain that to people. Like, I didn't really talk to anyone about it. Of course I would cry and Eric would see me and I'd be like explaining it to him, but I never really talked about it because I was like, I feel like everyone loves their jobs. I feel like everyone's so happy. Of course I'm not there behind closed doors, but I was just like, all of my friends Like the people at the gym, they have careers and they seem like they love their life and they're making money and they seem so happy. Like, I was afraid to talk to anyone about it because I'm like, I'm the 21, 22, 23-year old who is so confused. Like, I don't want to share that. That's like so vulnerable. Like, I'm not going to throw that on you. Like, I felt very intimidated by the fact that I'm like, I don't have a big girl job. I'm a barista. Like, nothing wrong with that, you know? But like, I just felt so unconfident in myself. Like, I wasn't doing anything good for the world. Like, I was just taking up space. I wasn't necessarily giving anything. Like, I felt very unseen and like not important. And I didn't like that feeling. But then also I could talk to them, but I just didn't because I was scared. I was embarrassed by it. Like, I don't know, whatever. I wanted to feel important, but I also like let the whole like, I don't have a college degree, I'm not doing something important, so I don't matter, whatever. But then at the same time, I couldn't talk to the people I worked with who are my friends because I was like, these people wouldn't understand me. I didn't feel understood by them either because I'm like, I felt like crazy for wanting more for myself. I felt crazy for wanting to push myself and wanting to do something that wasn't going to work and asking someone if they want a small or a large or if they want a hot or an iced drink. Like, felt like I couldn't talk to them because I'm like, these people wouldn't understand. Like, they complain all day. I don't know if they even notice it type thing. Maybe they do, maybe they don't, but I just felt so alone in that space where I didn't feel understood. Like, they wouldn't have deep conversations there, but I'm just like, what do I expect? I was just turning into these people. Like, I was just not being who I truly am for the sake of not bothering people, not bothering them by me wanting to talk about bigger things. I also knew that I can't explain myself to people who just won't understand, if that makes sense. Like I can't say, I don't know, like, it's just like a pointless conversation, or like, I don't think they would understand it to go anywhere with it. Whatever. Yeah, and then another quote is, that's how I felt about all of that. But another quote I wrote down was, when you feel behind, that's your insecurity putting a lid on what you believe is possible for you. So by me being afraid to talk to people about it, I've always had this feeling ever since like a young age, I don't know why, that I felt behind. I felt confused, and I felt like I wasn't supposed to be confused. I felt like I was supposed to have it together. And yeah, I just felt this feeling of not knowing, and that was a problem. Like, I'm like, oh my God, like, I don't have my life figured out. And like, I felt like this need to want to have it perfect. Like, I was like, oh, because you're still working at this job and you don't know what you want to do, you're behind. Which there's no behind or not behind. Like, you know, like, you just have to grow. Like, there's no perfect timeline for everybody. Everybody's timeline is different. Everyone's circumstance is different. But yeah, and I was like, I read this or listened, I don't know where I got this quote from. It was just in my notes, and I was like, oh, I think, yeah, it's basically like, that's your insecurity. Like, I felt so insecure with myself that I would stop myself from doing things because I was so scared, and I was like, I felt like unworthy of it all. So, yeah, and oh my gosh, my knee hurts. I'm sitting like crisscross in this chair. Okay, so yeah, that's just how I felt, right? I don't know if anyone resonates with this, but this is just a topic I need to get off my chest. So after my trip, on the way back from my trip, I stopped in California to visit my friend Carson, and I remember we were sitting there this like really sparked a lot of the like, I didn't have much time in Thailand to actually sit down, journal, process everything because we were going. It was just very good to be in the atmosphere of everyone, so that's where I got all the growth. But like I plan to go there and like journal every day and really sit there by myself on the beach and like figure it out, but that's just not how the trip was. But the trip was amazing, and oh my gosh, I like whistled, but I like grew so much from it. But I did notice this on the way back with Carson. She would ask me randomly, she would ask me these really deep questions, and I was like, whoa. Like, that's so silly. I don't even know how to explain it. I was like, whoa, I haven't been around people. Like, I was like taken back. I'm like, hold on, I gotta think about that. But it was very much like a deep question where she really wanted to know my answer. She was really like non-judgmental. She wasn't like, do you even know what you're doing with your life? Like, it was, like where I'm like, don't ask me, like all the other conversations that I was like trying to avoid it because I felt so behind than all these people, but she was asking me these questions and it would like take me aback. I'm like, oh, I get a chance. She really wants me to answer this right now. Like, I have a chance to sit here and think about it and give her an answer knowing I'm not going to be judged. And I felt like, you know what, my answer is important for the sake of myself. And I'm like, maybe, who knows why she's asking this, But then it was also like, she would randomly ask me these questions and I'm like, I haven't been asked really deep questions in so long that it took me back. But then I'm like, oh, this person, you can tell the difference between the people she's been around and how much growth she's had. You know what I'm saying? Like I was like, oh, like her aura and energy was like, oh, she's been around people who have been asking her these questions. So it's not like out of normal for her. It's very like you surround yourself like, what is okay, it's kind of like you become the top 5 people you hang out with. You know what I'm saying? So like the amount of times I've said that is so annoying. I don't know why I keep saying that, and I'm not going to say it again. I think it's clear what it was. So basically, like, you become the people you surround yourself with, and it's like, oh, she's asking these questions because she really wants to learn and she really wants to know and she really wants to connect. Connection was a big thing that I was struggling with, and that's what was making me crazy because I'm like, I don't even know how to explain the feeling of connection is so big for me. I feel like I'm just talking about myself. But it's like, who am I talking to? Like, I can't ask someone questions. So, like, I guess the point of this is to talk about myself and hope someone's like, oh, that's how I'm thinking and that's how I'm feeling. I feel very, very, like, conceited in a way. Like, I'm just talking about myself. Anyway, but, yeah, I just, like, I long for connection. Like, I feel so connected whenever me and someone can have a deep conversation. And when, like, oh, that, like, I love that. I love that so much. Like, conversations, like my favorite thing is, like, sitting at a coffee shop with someone one-on-one and, like, diving into silly things or random things that you had happen to you during the week, or, like, your fears and your goals and things that make us human. Like, sorry, the snap, but oh my gosh. Anyway, like I love connection, and I love understanding that we're all human and we all feel similar things. Like, that's just so beautiful to me. So I was like, oh, she's been so, like, you can tell who she's been surrounded with. Whereas I'm like, like, taken aback. I'm like, don't make me think about these things. Like, I'm not used to it. You know what I'm saying? So, okay, said it again. So she's asking me these questions, and then, so that's on my mind. And then we go to dinner with one of my friends. She was graduating, and her family came, and her dad came, and I noticed this about myself while we're sitting there at this conversation, at this table. Her dad loves to talk, like, and connect with people. It's so inspiring. Like, I want to be more like him. But anyway, so a few things I noticed at this talk. He would ask me about myself, whatever it may be. He would give me the chance to respond. And I noticed how quickly I wanted to take the attention off of me because I felt uncertain and uncomfortable. Oh my goodness, that thing almost flew in my mouth. Okay, it's fine. Yeah, I felt so like I wasn't confident in myself, and I felt unworthy of answering this question, like unworthy of keeping the attention on me for so long. So I noticed, I hate that I noticed it too. Like, he would ask me a question, I would answer it so, like, quick answer, and then I would ask him something, or, like I would try to change the topic, and I'm like, why are you doing that, Sterling? Like, this person's trying to get to know you, and it's okay to be vulnerable and say things deeper. Like I just noticed, I'm like, oh, I don't like talking to people who are very, like where when you're trying to connect with someone and they just can't open up. It's like, it's impossible to talk to them. I felt like that person. I just kept turning the conversation back. I'm like, please, like, and I'm like, it gave me a perspective of like, oh, I don't like that I'm doing that. I should really figure that out because I love connection and I would love to share with the world what I'm proud of. Like I want to be proud of myself. And my dog is twitching. She's asleep and she's running. She's running in her dream right now. I just see her like twitching. Anyway, so yeah, I just like love this connection, and I just got so far from it that I noticed like I had this opportunity to connect with someone. I just like, nope, like try to avoid it. I did not like that. So that's one thing I noticed at this table or this conversation. Second thing I noticed, I was like, oh, when he was asking like Carson a question, like about her photography, I was like, she's really going into detail about this because she feels proud of it. She's striving for this goal. She is expressing something that she's growing from. Like I could see the growth. I was like, oh, like it made me like, I want to be proud of something. When someone asks me a question, I want to tell them about it. I want to tell them how I feel because I feel proud and I feel important enough to. So I was like, oh, like she's not trying to move the conversation around. You know what I'm saying? Oh, I will get better about not saying that. Gosh, I don't even say that in real life. Like, why I'm saying it right now? Like, what's the purpose of it? Okay, so the most important thing that I took away from this conversation with Emily's dad, Tony, was he was explaining. Little does he know that I was like, oh, this is good. I'm taking that with me and I'm thinking about that. He was like, I'm going back to the, like, I got a little off, but I'm going back. So he's like, I do these talks for business people, but this can also be associated in real life. And he's like, okay. He explained it so well. He was like, there are two doors in life. We have one-way doors and we have two-way doors. And he's like, I'm going to tell you this because it's good. It's like, whatever. So he's like, one-way doors are doors that you walk through and you can't go back. So it's like these decisions in life, a lot of times we get stuck on these choices where we're like, oh my God, like super timid about making a decision. And we think of it as one-way doors, but really, like we think of this tiny little decision, whether it be to quit your job or to make a business move, like business, whatever, but like these tiny decisions, we make them into one-way doors. We think of them as one-way doors where once we make the decision, there's no going back. But he's like, a lot of times people get stuck on these when really those decisions are two-way doors. They're lessons you can learn from. Like a bunch of the stuff that we put so high on our, like, oh my gosh, this is life changing. Like this is like whatever. Like we put so high. It's really a two-way door decision. Like you can go through, see how it is, test the waters, and you can always change. Like you can come back, you can redirect it. One-way door decisions are like, oh no, having a baby, getting married. That's very like, okay, that's a big decision, you know. That's obvious, you know, where you, once it happens, it's not the worst. It's not necessarily that one-way doors are bad things, but it's very like, oh, that's a big decision. Can't necessarily reverse it, you know, like once it's there, it's kind of like, okay, whatever. But I was sitting there thinking, he explained it so much better than I did, but I just wanted to mention it in this episode because I was like, oh my gosh, like I'm on my way home. I know I'm going to have to go to work. I've been debating about quitting my job because I'm so unhappy and miserable. And I'm like, it's been, after looking in my journal, it's been like almost 3 years of feeling that way. And I was like, wow, I'm making this decision into a one-way door. I'm 23 years old and I'm so unhappy. I can't connect with people. I don't feel confident about myself or who, I don't feel proud. And I'm miserable. And it's like I know the answer to this and I am not doing anything. I'm making it a one-way door decision. Like once I go through, my life is like, not that I want to go back to the job, but I was making this small little like problem in my life into this huge thing where it was controlling how I felt, controlling who I was. I knew in my heart it wasn't making me happy. And as soon as I felt that, I should have been like, oh, that's a two-way door, little decision, go through, test the waters, figure it out. Like it's not detrimental to my life. Yeah. So I was sitting there and I'm like, I don't know. It was, okay. Another thing, this entire trip, there were multiple instances where I was like, the universe is trying to tell me something. It's like putting all of these situations, whether it be people or conversations, little things that weren't like, you should do this, like not literally not straightforward, but they were little things where if like just setting them down for me. And I'm like, oh, like little things, like the universe was just like, here's this. I know you need it. This is for you. I'm not going to blast it in your face and be like, this is the answer. I'm going to set this here. And this is just a little gift to you, you know? And there are many times where I felt like I was receiving these gifts that I would not normally see. And that was such a beautiful thing to me because I'm like, little does he know, talking about this one-way door, two-way door thing. I'm sitting here like, I needed that. And I didn't beg for it. I wasn't sitting there like, oh my gosh, I need to figure out my life. I need to do this. I need to sit here and journal. I need to process this. I need to figure out what I want to do with my life. I need to have it all perfect. It was just kind of like, it was just gifted to me when I was least expecting it. But also this trip, I was so present. I was able to be present, but I was still able to receive those little gifts. Like I was like, oh, I'm sitting here being so present, doing this thing, but I was able to notice it. I was able to sit there and be like, that wasn't just, that was like, I don't know how to explain it. Like, that was a gift. Like, that little conversation was put there for me on purpose. Carson asking me those questions weren't just random. It was like, oh, like it was very much like little things where I was like very thankful for. I don't really know how to explain exactly how I was feeling, but hopefully you can understand that, like, whatever you like, how, like, what I'm trying to say about like the universe was giving me all these little signs, and I wasn't trying to force it. It was just kind of like laying it in my lap, and I was very like so grateful for it. Like, I didn't sit there and be like, oh my gosh, I needed to hear that, like, I have this problem. I was just like, I don't know why you chose to say that right now. Like, we're just sitting here eating a chicken sandwich at this dinner on a random Thursday night. I don't know what inclined you to talk about this, but I really needed to hear it. And I'm glad I was able to sit there and it was gifted to me. Like, I'm so thankful I was able to sit there and be like, whoa, that did a lot for me, more than you can imagine. And it was just a little conversation for you. But to me, it was like, it was something I needed. So let's move on with this, shall we? I get back home and I have a few days and I'm just like, oh my gosh, I feel so creative. I feel so inspired. I was just around people who are pushing me, like training, people who are just older than me, have more wisdom than me. I was getting to learn from them and experience how they view the world and how grateful they are. Why do I keep having to burp? Oh my gosh, that's so gross. Anyway, so like, I was getting to experience all of these things. I felt like I literally felt like my soul was rejuvenated. I don't even know how to describe it. Like, I was like, that was literally so good for my freaking soul. Before I left here, I was such a stranger. Like, I had nothing behind my eyes. Ugh, that is so scary, and it makes me so sad that so many people, I can see it. I can see that they're like numbing something. Like, there are many people who are numbing things and don't want to face like reality type whatever. Of course, everyone's going through things. Circumstances are so hard. This is hard. People have different lives, different obstacles, but like, I'm just like, I can see when people are truly happy. I really noticed that. Like, I'm like, this person is in love with their life. And being surrounded by like my coaches, like Randy and Tessa, like Randy's very he like expresses how he feels. So I'm just, when he's grateful, and it just makes me so happy to be around someone who's very like he has life behind his eyes. Yeah, you know what I'm saying? So leaving with no being a stranger to myself and no one inside here. I was just a freaking what are they called? Like, just walking around. I don't know, no soul, whatever. So leaving there like that and then coming back feeling super like, whoa, I just grew a lot. That was good. Like, that was good for me. I felt like my soul was rejuvenated. I felt excited to be creative. I felt like I was pushed in things that I needed to be pushed in, and it was just so good, right? Of course, it's vacation. It's going to feel great. And then I hadn't put my 2 weeks in because I ignored it. Whatever. So, I go back to work. And this is the longest week of my life. As soon as I go back, I slowly, of course I notice it. I'm like, whoa, like, everyone's still doing the same thing. Everyone's still complaining. Everyone's still whatever. So I notice that. And I'm just very like, oh, I didn't, like, I don't know what I was expecting. Like, these people are still the same, whatever. And I just had this like life-changing not life-changing, but like I was like, oh my God, like very moving experience that I wanted to hold on to. And I was like, oh, y'all are still doing this. And I don't know, I was trying to hold on to it. I was like gripping this trip and this growth, this season of growth, whatever, like so hard. And throughout the week, it just slowly was being taken from me. That's just how I can explain it. I'm just like, it's getting taken from me way faster than I got it, you know? So I was like I felt like right back into feeling exhausted, and like I couldn't ignore, like these thoughts were in my head from the time I got there to the time I left. Like it was like, you don't like this doesn't make you happy, you're miserable. Like it was just like I couldn't distract myself from my own thoughts thinking that. Like I don't know oh yeah, that's another thing I don't know how to explain. Like it was just constantly on my mind where I'm like, these people don't even know what's out there. Like I don't know. I was just like, whoa, yo, like, y'all didn't have this like, whoa moment like I did, which is fine. I'm not, whatever. They're just working. They're at work. I don't know what I'm expecting. Whatever. So I'm just like, it's getting taken from me. I'm feeling this exhaustion. I'm constantly overloaded and overstimulated once again. I felt like I was going crazy, and it made me really sad that I was forgetting the feeling of so much growth that I just got to experience, like this magic. And I was like, oh, like it was terrifying. I was like, oh my God, like I'm just like someone's holding my head down. Like I was just up here on the surface, someone just dragging me down, taking all this energy from me, just like I left. And I was like, ugh. And I'm thankful for the experience, so I noticed it more, but I was like, it was very like, you don't want to do this, whatever. So a week goes by and I'm just like, oh, okay, I needed to figure it out. I need to get another job, whatever. And then you know what? Last Tuesday, I was like, this isn't going to change. You're never going to have this perfect plan. It's never going to be, okay, yeah, so it's never going to be perfect. You're going to keep yourself stuck here, getting taken from instead of getting poured into. Oh, weird. Whatever. You get what I'm trying to say. So I was like, you know what? I was like, you're going to email in your 2 weeks today. I needed a little help. I needed some help. Like I messaged my friend and I was like, please keep me accountable. Like I'm going to put my 2 weeks in today, because as much as I'm afraid, back to the power of not knowing, as much as I'm freaking terrified of doing this, I need to do it. I can't sit there and make another podcast episode because I'm literally lying. I'm not living like I know the power. I'm literally like, I know the power of not knowing. I know how much power there is behind doing things you're afraid of and doing things that's uncomfortable, you know? But here I am, 3 years into a job I hate, miserable, still there, still doing, you know, like I'm just like, you cannot talk to these people if you're lying to yourself. Like that's just wrong. And that's me being real. That's me being real, not saying that I'm perfect, you know? Like I'm not saying I know everything. So yeah, I was like, I'm doing it. And I was crying that day on the way home. I bawled my eyes out because of how scary it was. But I was like, when something's tugging at your heart and something's on your mind, like the universe is like, bruh, like, hello, I know you hear me. Stop ignoring me. I'm not going to leave you alone, because you know this is something that needs to happen. Like this is the pivoting point in your life. Like so much greatness is on the other side of this. Like I'm not gonna leave you alone, you know? Like those are the thoughts that are in my head. Like I was like, if I'm feeling this, I just need to do it. I can't have this perfect plan or I'm never going to do it. I can't be a perfectionist in this. Like, I literally had that conversation with Eric and he's like, you know what? You have to figure it out. You have to just quit and you're going to be forced to figure it out. And there's nothing wrong with that. He's like, yeah, he told me that and I was like, you're right. Because I was like, what about this? And what about this? And what about this? Like, I wanted this perfect thing. And he's like, nothing's going to force you to figure it out. You just have to but nothing's going to force you to figure out besides doing the damn thing. You know, you just have to freaking do something. You have to do it. You can't have it perfect. There's no right answer. There's no wrong answer. It's not that big of a deal. Just fucking do it. So I didn't mention it to him. He didn't know I was crying earlier because he wasn't home. And I went to the room, wrote out the email before I could think I sent it. And I kind of started crying. I was like, oh my gosh, my camera's gonna die. No. My camera really be making me lose my flow. I need to get a second battery or figure out how to plug it in while I'm recording because I was on a roll and then I had to plug it in to let it charge. But we are back and I just have to mention that because I'm just like different kind of headspace. But I went back and listened to what I just finished with. So yeah, we're just gonna get right back into it and pretend that didn't happen. So I go into the room and he's over here by himself, doesn't know what's going on. I just go into the room and send the email before I could think. Started crying a bit and it was just kind of like, whoa, like this weight. You know, I was like, holy, I just did that. I could have did that like 2 years ago. That's besides the point. We all know this. I knew I could have done it a long time ago. But I was like, well, that was pretty easy. That was not that big of a deal. So I come out of the room. He's like laying on the floor. And I'm like, guess what I just did? He looks at me. He's like, what? And I was like, I just put my 2 weeks in. And he turns around and he's like, I'm so proud of you. He was like, give me a hug. Like, he sat up and he like, I don't know, it felt so nice. I was like, he sat up and acknowledged what I did and how he knew it was so scary for me and how he knew how miserable I was and this was like hard for me for some reason. Like, it was really hard. And I mean, only some people would understand that. Some people are just like, I don't like this. Okay, bye. Like, you know, like they don't really like think about it, but I'm over here like, gave me a hug and was like, I'm so proud of you. And I'm just like crying. He's like, how do you feel? And I'm like, I don't know. Like, I was like, just like this weight was lifted off of my shoulders. And I was like, wow, I did that. That was so simple. But I felt this like, I can move on, you know? And so, yeah, so now here we are. I do have like 4 more shifts left, but I'm not afraid. I mean, of course I am, you know, but like genuinely I'm just like, oh my gosh, like I just like, only good things can happen from here. I feel this weight off my shoulder. Of course, these past few shifts, bro, they are like the longest shifts of my life. I'm like, I cannot. Like, this place is bad, you know? Like, I'm just like, can I just leave now? But trying to make that extra money. Yeah, money stuff. I'm like, okay, I think I need like some little source of income, like part-time, but anything's not going to be as draining as that, you know, at least for a few months or something. But mainly I'm like going to prioritize all of this creative stuff that I'm doing because, you know what? It makes me happy. And also, not gonna fucking lie, like, people be making money off of this. Like, that's the truth. People make money from TikTok. People make money from Instagram. People make money. I'm not doing it for the money. But I'm just like, nowadays, like, come on. this is a real, people are getting paid for this. They're getting paid to put themselves out there and be uncomfortable. Like, of course it's weird. Of course it's cringy. But, like, who cares? Like, if I like this and I could eventually get paid, which is not my goal, but it is my goal, that would be legit. I could work for myself. Like, I could talk about that. I do want to talk about entrepreneurship and stuff and how I feel about it. But yeah. So I have a few more shifts left and I'm feeling a little like, but it's fine. I feel this like, oh, I'm so excited. I'm nervous. I haven't applied to places I need to apply. But I'm not like stressed. I'm not like, oh my gosh, I need this money. Like, I'm freaking out. Like, normally I would be, but I'm like, I have this trust in myself, you know? Like, I have this trust that if I'm putting myself out there authentically and doing something that's like, I believe in this. And if I could just full-heartedly believe in it, I know I'm going to be okay. So, whatever. Anyway, so, yeah, I'm forced to figure it out now, and I'm excited to figure it out. I'm not like, oh, I gotta figure it out, like, whatever. So I'm like, I'm pumped. I'm excited for this new season of life because I get to share it with this podcast. Whoever is listening, I get to share it with y'all. I'm sharing how scary that was and how scary it's gonna be because I don't have income right now. Like, I'm sharing it all. I'm choosing to put this out there in the world while I don't have it figured out. Like, I'm not lying to y'all saying like, yeah, just quit your job. Like I just quit my job and I have so much in savings. I just went on a trip for 3 weeks and then I come back and quit my job. That was a bit of money. So I'm not gonna lie to y'all. But you know what? I did something for myself. I chose myself. And that's a big deal to me. And I feel positive that the universe is going to reward me. Like, I'm just so trusting that I'm like, there's no way putting myself first into something I believe in is going to backfire on me. Of course, it's not going to be easy. Of course, it's not going to be. Lily is licking her paw, and I feel like you can hear it. She's like making out with her paw right now. Whatever. Anyway, so I'm like, it's not going to be easy. It's going to be scary. I'm still scared. Like, that's all I know. But all I know, well, you know, like, that's the only thing I know. Because I haven't had to have an interview at a job in forever. I haven't had to look at my resume. I haven't had to, like, now it's like I have to prioritize being creative and putting content out there. But it's not like it's something I don't want to do. Like, that's so fun to me. And now I have the energy to do it. Like, the thought of never having to step foot in a place that took so much from me, I'm just like, wow, I just took charge of my life. I could have done this a long time ago. But so I want to end this podcast with a few takeaways because I feel like it was all talking about me. And I'm hoping that this resonated with people, or you can come back whenever you're feeling this way. I don't know. It's out there. I'm sharing my experience. Do whatever you want with it. Or, okay, yeah. If you're my friend and you're just listening and you're not in the situation, thank you for listening. I love you. So I want to give you some takeaways. And I have them written down and I'm going to read off of this. So, okay. Takeaway number 1. Change is scary, but growth is necessary. Kind of rhymes. I don't know if it does, whatever. Change is so freaking scary. And I'm the first one to tell you that. Like, oh, this lighting is kind of bad. Half of my face is like in the shade. Literally terrifying. Change is so scary. Being comfortable is like, it's freaking scary. But it's like, it's so necessary to grow. It's so necessary to grow and not be stagnant, especially if you're feeling it. And it's constantly like tugging at your heart and you know you've got to do it. I mean, it's okay if you don't notice it, because then it's not even a big deal. But if you're sitting there every day and you're like, oh my God, I hate this and I love this thing, or I'm not happy, like, you're gonna have to grow. And the only way to grow is to change something, no matter how scary it is. And I hope this motivates you to try something out, to change something in your life, because trust me, I'm terrified. I was crying and freaking out, and trust me, like, we're in this together. And if you want to message me or something and talk about it, like, it would make me feel seen because right now I'm like, I am jobless. I don't know what to talk to you. Like, I'm just like, I don't know. Like, it's kind of like, if you feel the same way, I would love to talk about it because that makes me feel seen too. Because right now I'm just talking to myself. The second takeaway is having trust in yourself. It's really hard sometimes to feel like we know what we're doing because we don't, like there's no like set plan, but like having this trust in yourself, knowing like, like you're all you have. And you're just like, if you don't trust yourself with something that you know is like pulling at you and like something that you know brings this like fulfillment to you, I don't know. It's just, all it takes is just trusting in yourself. And I know it's hard. It's, like it's very hard, but it's very powerful. Just trust that your intuition and whatever is bugging you, it's doing it for a reason. And something so little like that could be right, like trust yourself. It's hard, but we have to practice it more with little things, like just trust yourself. I feel like we know ourselves the most, and you don't need to explain yourself to anyone else. No one else has to understand how you're feeling. No one else has to be like, if other people have opinions and they're like, you quit your job and you don't have another job and you don't have like, you're like it's like, so many people are going to have opinions. So many people want to go to school and have some like a degree in something. So many people want to have tech jobs and like office jobs. But like, I'm trusting myself that knowing I don't want that. Like, I don't want to just move to another job that makes me comfortable for the sake of having money. Because I know I'm never like, yeah, I can get a 9-to-5 and have like everything set in stone. But like, I know I don't want that. So I need to trust myself and know that if it means I'm happy, I'm going to be fine, Okay, I need to move on. This is long. Life is too short to be miserable and put yourself on the back burner. Okay, I'm going to say that again because I wasn't looking at the camera. The third takeaway. Life is too short to be miserable and put yourself on the back burner. These are all tying in together. But yeah, we are not living forever. And we're also not living to fucking work and to hate our lives. So it's too short to be miserable and not go on the trips you want to take and not buy the thing that you want to buy and be with the person that you love and want to be with. Life is so short to be miserable. Put yourself aside and not go after something you want. Like, we are not promised tomorrow. And of course you know that. But a lot of times we need to remind ourselves of that and like just do it scared because you're going to grow from it. You're going to grow from it. And if anything, it's going to enlighten you and change your perspective and help push you forward. And if you keep putting yourself on the back burner, you're always going to be on the back burner. And it's, I don't know, this is your freaking sign to do something for you. And like, yeah, like put yourself first. I love you and I hope that you love yourself. Like, and I hope that you know that you're worth loving yourself. And I hope that you know that you're worth having choices to make for you to be happy. Like, oh, don't put yourself on the back burner. It's not, I don't know, it's not necessary. I know it's easy to do. I'm a people pleaser, and trust me, I'm the first person who would be like, let's do what you want, like put myself like aside. But at some point, you have to realize you are all you have, and this is your life, and you're the only one who knows what's going on in your mind. You're the only one who knows your true desires, even if it's a little confusing. Like, don't explain yourself to anyone. If you're miserable and you feel like this thing is weird and no one would get it, who the fuck cares? Like, seriously, like, if it means you're putting yourself aside for the sake of someone else not wanting to listen to what they say, like, life's too short. Who cares? And I mean that in a, like, good way. Don't put yourself on the back burner. The next thing is, okay, let this be your sign to jump into what makes you happy. Yeah, this is your sign. If you made it this far and this resonated with you and you feel some type of way, whether it be about this topic or something else, yeah, like, if you feel moved to do something, do it. This is your sign. Don't be afraid. It's going to be okay. If anything, and if you're scared, I'm literally here in the same boat you are. You're not alone. There are multiple people who feel the same way, if not have felt the same way. It's not gonna be easy. It's not gonna be like smooth sailing. Of course, there's our ups and downs, but like, you just have to. If it makes you happy, don't explain yourself. Okay. The last thing I wrote. I'm not telling you to quit your job, but I'm telling you there is more to life than being unhappy. All of these mean the same thing. But yeah, I'm not telling you go quit your job without a plan like I did. Because, like, don't blame me for your... don't blame me if something goes wrong. But yeah, that's not what I'm saying. I'm just trying to get across, like, if you feel that way, do it. Like, the wait will be... Oh my gosh, you deserve so much more. It feels exciting even though it's scary. But yeah, so this has been very long, and I feel very happy that I decided to talk about this today. I was putting it off. I didn't feel very in the mood to have this to sit here and talk about stuff. Personally, I was just a little anxious and like stuff going on, but I knew it would make me feel better. And I knew it would give me some purpose. And yeah, I feel good. I feel really good that I got that off my chest and I was able to share it with everyone. And I'm grateful that I'm proud of myself for putting myself out there, because I know other people are feeling this way. And if you're not and you're just listening to listen, or you clicked off and you don't even know I'm saying this, that's okay too, like, whatever. But yeah, more topics about this and other stuff that comes up makes me happy. So yeah, I need to end this because it's way too long. But do I know how to end it? Of course I don't. Thank you for listening, everybody. This is The Power of Not Knowing. And yeah, follow my social medias. I will put them in the show notes. I feel like that's what people say at the end of their podcast. Maybe like it if that's possible on Spotify. I don't know. I don't even know if that's a thing. Follow, maybe. I should get all this information for the next time. But thank you so much for listening. If you have listened this far, I love you. And yeah, okay. Bye.